Do you want to move over to the anime episode?
Yes! Yes, I do! The build-up for the final fucking... Like, I kind of had this sneaking suspicion it was going to be the final moment of the episode. I was kind of worried that, like, man, they better not fucking cut away before Kid smacks the absolute fuck out of Apu. They better not. They better not. And they didn't. And that was great. But tell me I'm not the only one who noticed the animation getting just a little wonky.
It was in a few places, and it's weird because there were some places where the animation looked pretty great, and then other places where I'm just like, guys, what are you kind of doing? Because there were I'd say about, I couldn't really count it, but there were plenty of notable times where the animation quality, like, hit a high, and then plenty of times where it hit a low. The highs for me was when Zoro jumped down from that building and joined Luffy. The smoke effect there was just like, why are you putting so much detail there? I'm like, what's going on? The other time was when they were slashing through some of those enemies, mostly Zoro, because I don't know about you, but I'm not used to seeing so many people be actually cut by Zoro. Usually it's kind of left oddly ambiguous, but like here I'm just like, these people are dying. And it feels weird to just have that kind of dawn on me like, oh, Zoro's just actually cutting these people. This feels weird.
Did One Piece take the chance to turn Wano into their Samurai Jack season 5? What the fuck?
Because I don't know, man. I'm just like, I don't know if it's the way they were depicting blood or something, but the way the splatter was going all over the place, it was left very unambiguous where he was cutting these people and how deep those cuts were. I feel like in one scene he also cut some dude's head off, but they cut away from it before we fully saw it, and I'm just like, is my imagination going wonky here?
I don't know if he cut that guy's head off. That was one of the numbers, wasn't it?
I think
very large.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. The first number will show up next episode.
Oh, okay. Well, that large-ass giant motherfucker, I don't think he cut his head off. I'm pretty sure he sliced one of his jugulars, though.
Yeah.
That much I'm certain.
I wasn't sure, because I'm like, Zoro, the fuck you doing, man? I don't know. I'm like, it was the weirdest thing possible.
I'm like, yo, you going in, man. Luffy and Zoro are just like, nah, fuck it. They die. They die.
And there were a few scenes where Luffy and Zoro were trying to get away from the Beast Pirates and Apu that were pretty well done, but there were also some scenes there that were pretty like, ugh, what the fuck was that? So, that ups and downs there. But,
oh god, Queen looked real awkward in this episode.
Yeah,
he looked...
They were really emphasizing his fat neck rolls here, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, fucking...
so off-footing. It looked so wrong. It looked like pudding. It was like, ugh.
Like, they turned his neck into an innie, and I'm just like, what the fuck is that shit?
Describe it. Okay, tell me I'm not the only one who noticed a lot of the sequences with Kid in this episode. Those were some of the animation low points. I'm just like, what exactly is happening? Best example of juxtaposition of high versus low. The sequence where Kid is like, charging up to gather all the metal to make his giant arm for his punk Gibson. Everything about that sequence all the way up until he leaps through the air and just smacks the ever-loving fuck out of Apu. Brilliant.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant. And then as Kid descends to the ground, his head just kind of wobbles, is the best way I can put it. Have you ever seen fucking lava lamp? It was kind of like that, but not as extreme as I'm making it sound. you notice what his head's doing. It's like they're trying to keep him at a specific angle, but they're trying to depict that he's, descending because gravity is finally catching up with him. But budget didn't have time to fix that one.
Dude, it was all the fuck over the place because, fucking first off, the first time you really see kids start to notice Apu is like, okay, he's noticed where Apu is, and there's some weird scenes where they're just showing his face at these weird and wonky kind of angles and shit. And I'm just like, what are you guys, what you guys fucking doing? And then it almost feels like Kid teleports back to a further away distance than where he originally was, because I could have sworn he was closer to Apu in one scene, and then in the later half of the episode, it's just like, oh, he's further away, and he has to jump down to where Apu is, and I'm just like, I swear to God, I could have sworn he was closer. What the fuck is going on?
I would argue that maybe he didn't really actually know where Apu was. He was just spending most of his time looking around for him, but he heard him on the mic, and it's just like, I know that motherfucker. Where is he? And then, by the end of the episode, he actually did find him. I would argue that that's what they're trying to convey. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't read that well, or didn't read that way for you.
Yeah, that has to be it. Because
I might have to look at the episode again just to see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I might need to watch it again too, honestly. But the one thing that was putting me off the most is just, man, Kid was just mean mugging the camera throughout like a good chunk of this episode. I feel like 5 whole minutes were just dedicated to an up close shot of Kid just plotting to destroy Apu.
I'm not gonna lie, that is definitely what they were doing, but it did kind of make it just feel all the more satisfying. It's just like, you see him sitting on that shit, you see it, the anger and the frustration and everything just building in him. It's just like, oof, and then that hit,
just like, he was all too ready to do this thing. Although, I gotta tell you...
Right.
I gotta tell you, though, when it was done in the manga, it was like an instant thing. It's just like, he sees Apu, next thing you know, boom, Apu goes squish. You go squish now. But seeing it in the anime, I'm just like, Apu, you had every opportunity to get out of the way. You had every opportunity to attack Kid, to say something, to do anything. The fact that you still managed to go squish, it's just like, oh no, you had that coming, motherfucker. You could have done anything in the interim between when that was going on, and you chose death. You chose to go squish. I have no sympathy for you. I didn't have sympathy for you before, but I especially don't have it now.
The next few episodes they're just gonna be the fuck Apu hour. That's basically how it was when they were dealing with Apu. It's just like, man, fuck this guy, and everyone just kept hitting it with like everything they fucking had. Like, I feel like Kid would have hit him with much more if he could have found it, but it's just like, you know what? This is big enough.
Like, anything more and I won't be able to do it in time. This is enough.
Exactly.
Like, you go by.
This'll do. You go squish now, you motherfucker.
Speaking of which, let's see. Next episode is His Dream Broken, the trap that lures Sanji, which is when he first enters the brothel and finds all of nobody inside it. See how long that goes.
Falls for Black Maria's trap, right?
That actually doesn't happen until a little bit later. We've got the whole rescue Momonosuke thing first.
Right. But there wasn't much else to the episode.
Oh no, the episode was all of 10 pages worth of adaptation. It ain't shit to talk about else. Probably more next episode.
Really. Probably, but I imagine it's not going to be by a lot, because this is about that point. I feel like we're at about that point where we're going to be getting, we got to this point in Dressrosa where we're going to maybe get 15 minutes of content per episode because of possibly the budget being overblown, or because maybe they're getting like too close. It's hard to say.
I still honestly kind of prefer they just pop out like I don't know, like a filler story arc or something. Just put that shit in there because I'd rather them do that than keep padding shit out. It wouldn't be the first time they just up and inserted filler story in the middle of a story arc that they'd gone a little too long with.
I hope we don't end up seeing that, and I especially hope we don't see it to the degree we saw it in Dressrosa. I want to be an optimist because I have been liking what I've been seeing. Like even the stuff that is getting padded out a bit, I don't mind it. I don't mind it as long as they rein it in. I'd say as long as they rein it in, we're good. I imagine they're trying to hold off a lot of stuff for the biggest, most important events for the right number episode, and I get that. All the same, this is a new thing for me actually, because if you'll recall, when I was actually watching Dressrosa, I had left it alone for the most part. I waited until it was like in its final stages before I started picking it up and then keeping up with it weekly. Now I'm keeping up with a giant mega arc on a pretty consistent basis.
I don't know, man.
This is that point where the arc fatigue comes in because you start to notice the parts in the anime where it's like, oof, we got to just keep this going a little bit longer because we're not ready to get to this point yet. So just stretch that out just a smidge wherever you can.
Yeah, it's usually at this point that I kind of start to leave the anime alone a little bit, but we've been kind of going over it from episode to episode because so many of the episodes have been so good, but we really are hitting that point where they're trying to stretch things out, and it's just like, oof. It's really starting to show, and it's really starting to kind of become a little bit of an issue because it's really obvious what they're doing.
I want to say moving forward that we can expect more of this, but I want to be an optimist and say don't expect too much of this because I know that Oda probably wants to avoid doing that as much as possible. He seems to want to make Wano like, I don't want to say magnum opus, but maybe he wants it to be the magnum opus at least until the next arc starts coming out.
Well, my thought is that next story arc, because he's been saying he's going to be wrapping it up soon enough, so there can only be at most like 2 more story arcs. And I would say the next destination after all of this goes down has to be Elbath, because that's it. There's really no other places after that would be worth visiting aside from finally getting to Laugh Tale.
Yeah, that I agree on 100%. Thing is, and this is my question, what happens when they get to Laugh Tale and I assume the government and like even the Gorosei and everything and everybody are colliding there? What happens then? Do we have another God Valley incident, but on a much fucking larger scale?
I mean, I would have to assume so, because at that point, everything really has to come to a head. And that's kind of always been the thing about where we're at in terms of the story. It's just like, there are still so many pieces that need to be wrapped up between the question of, we have all of these supernovas or super rookies who have been introduced who, after all of this goes down, I would have to assume they're going to be pursuing the One Piece because that seemed to be what they were introduced for. There's the assumption of the Marines will be going after, the One Piece ultimately just because they know that all these other forces are starting to gain traction and head in on it. If Kaido and Big Mom manage to make it out of this situation, they'll be going after it. We have to deal with whatever might be going on with Shanks. We have to deal with Blackbeard. Wrap up the whole situation of the ancient weapons. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that would need to be wrapped up, and the idea that gets wrapped up within the span of, the way Oda made it seem like maybe 3 years from now, That doesn't seem possible. Because he was making it sound like we'd be done with all of this by 2024, maybe 2025. And I'm just like, no, man. You still got a lot of stuff to go through. And he's been taking these breaks sporadically, which good on him. Get the rest where you need it. Don't overwork yourself. But the way he's been going, we're not going to wrap this up before, by 2025. Maybe a few years after that, possibly. But yeah, I don't know, man.
I guess we'll have to wait and see, because there really is a lot.
It's a lot to get through. It's a lot to go over. It's just a lot, and the bright side is that Oda has said that he already has the ending in mind. He's always had it in mind, and I doubt he's changed that in any significant way. It's just the how that's gonna be very complicated.
To imagine at this point, the how has gotten just extra long because he just keeps thinking of, like, oh shit, but what about this? Oh shit, but what about this? Oh shit, but what about, oh god, what am I doing?
It's just a lot to wrap up, dealing with Eam, the Celestial Dragons, the whole situation with Joy Boy and how he relates to Fishman Island, and potentially Zoe and Skypiea, and whatever we figure out in Elbath, where I'm assuming the last road poneglyph is for some reason. And I'm just like, Oda, if you pull this off, you will go down as a legend, because out of the big three...
Don't forget Eneru's got to come back.
Yeah, whatever the fuck is going on the moon, too, that has to be addressed. The whole situation with the Brickens, the Shandians, and the Skypeans, what their relationship with the moon is, what's going on there, and whatever the fuck King is. Like, I'm still questioning what he is, because there's only, like, a specific area where you get people with wings from, and we've yet to ever see someone with black wings, let alone wings that actually work. So Oda set up yet another mystery within this storyline because of King, and it's just like, god fucking damn it, Oda. Not to mention ancient giants that has been brought up between Oars Jr., all the numbers, the experimental ancient zones, and whatever the fuck Kaido, Yamato, Black Maria, Page One, Ulti, and all these other fuckers with horns are. Because this is something that I've been really questioning. Why do these people have horns that are actually part of their skin? You look at Black Maria and it's just like, nope, those are part of her face. Those are straight up part of her face. Is she also someone who was experimented on? Are they related to the ancient zones? I mean, ancient giants? Why does Kaido and Oars seem to look very similar to each other? I want answers.
Oh, I never thought about a lot of what you just brought up, so now I'm just kind of sitting here reevaluating it like, shit.
Yeah, that's been something that's been bugging me for a while now. It's just like, you look at Oars and Oars Jr., who have those weird-ass horns, and then you look at Kaido, they're the exact same horns. Exact same. The way that Kaido's face looks, aside from those big-ass teeth that Oars and Little Oars Jr. have, they look so similar. It's freaky. There is some connection there that we haven't been privy to, and I'm wondering what the fuck is being set up. And I assume it's going to be answered in Elbath, but it's just like, what's the connection? Because it's an obvious connection, but I don't know what it is.
Well, I can't say I do either, so I'm sure when it is made apparent, we'll all be looking back on all this shit like, oh, how the fuck did we not figure that out?
And Oda keeps a lot of things really close to the vest, and I applaud him for that. It doesn't mean that he's never had plot holes here and there. Certain things are just like, yeah, that that was obvious that you weren't thinking about this at the time, but at the same time, it's just like when he does put certain things into perspective and get them right in that sweet spot, it's just like, well, damn, you you really managed to pull this off, Oda. Well done. And I do really believe that he'll manage to make this work, but it's a very much a question of how he's going to do this.
Well, as always, we'll wait and see.
Yeah.